Well, hello, sports fans. Larry Eder in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. Stuart Weir in Tokyo, Japan. This is the Tokyo Breakdown number 3. It is 4 p.m. in lovely Wisconsin, and it is 6 a.m. Friday morning in Tokyo. And look at Stuart. He is wide awake and not bushy-tailed. I'm not sure what the British equivalent of that is, but good to see you, Stuart.
Yes, well, I think perhaps I should bow to you as we do in Japan.
Okay, we'll do that then. That sounds really good. I understand that you will have porridge for breakfast this morning instead of steamed fish, rice, and some pickled vegetables?
Yes, I just don't feel that my constitution is ready for rice, fish, chicken, and vegetables at 6 a.m., but there we are. If you've read the piece that I posted on Laura Muir, she is having porridge for breakfast, which she has brought all the way from Scotland. So, hey, if I do the same, I might be running myself.
Yeah, I tell you, you could, maybe we get you down there under 411, in the 1500. That'd be quite impressive, a world super vet record,
I mean, Laura Muir has porridge and talent, and I have at least half of that.
There you go. So talk to us about getting around. What are the logistics? How far are you from the stadium? What's your walk going to be like? What's the weather like?
I like to plan ahead. I actually visited this hotel 2 years ago during the World Relays in Tokyo. Okay. And I chose this hotel because it's 4 stops on the metro, the subway, to the stadium. Then somebody decided to have a pandemic, and now media are banned from using the metro.
Wow.
So we're not allowed to travel on the train. So therefore, what would have been a simple journey isn't. I mean, it's a 45-minute walk, but in temperatures, you'll have to convert this perhaps for some people, of temperatures in the mid-30s.
Okay, so 85 to 93. Okay, yeah.
It's really, a 45-minute walk is not that attractive. But actually, the best thing the organizing committee has done is done a deal. I mean, basically, we're not allowed to use normal taxis, but there are certain vetted taxis which we can use, but have to be booked online in advance. And they've given me 14 taxi vouchers, which is 14 free journeys. So this morning I have a taxi booked to pick me up at 8 a.m. To get me to the stadium probably by about 15:15, and for the action to start at 9 a.m. So that's great. If I want to go into the center of Tokyo, where a lot of the venues are, where, for example, the main press center is and all the resources we need, I get a bus which goes every hour, which interestingly takes 30 minutes coming out of Tokyo and an hour going in, because I'm the first stop coming out, but then it does all the other hotel stops before going back in again. So that is working. Buses tend to run to anywhere but every 30 minutes or 60 minutes. It works. The other thing that people were bothered about is the fact that for the first time ever in my experience, events are ticketed for media. So, but I have been given tickets for the first 4 evenings of athletics and been told that there will be no difficulty getting tickets for morning sessions, but they come one a day. Interestingly, the tickets for the evening is a physical ticket, and for the mornings is a virtual ticket.
Okay.
Reassured that I will almost certainly get to all the athletics.
Great. Do us a favor. Take a photograph of one of the tickets so we can put it up.
Sure.
Show people what it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated with that.
And just another thing, which for me is rather nice intensive familiarity. The lady who is in charge of the media center in the venue is Raquel, who was in the same role at Rio and also worked at Birmingham.
Yes.
The person who is in charge of the mix zone is Sophie Ashurst, who worked for British Athletics for a number of years.
Oh, cool.
I sent an email 2 nights ago about the fact that we don't know until late evening whether we've got a ticket for the next morning. I sent it just to press bookings at, the generic email, and got a reply from Jane Pierce.
Wow.
Who is a consultant to them. Jane Pierce, who has done media at so many events around the world. And so, it all seems very familiar to be dealing with people I've known for years. Jane, I first met at London 2012 when she was the head of media there. So the thing is that what I'm saying is also there's familiar people, and if there's a problem, they're very quick to sort it out.
That's awesome. Any second thoughts about you going to Tokyo?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I always felt I wanted to go. I needed to be sure that the family were comfortable with me coming. I have felt safe. In terms of traveling, it's normally been on a bus which is less than half full. In fact, I'm traveling on taxis. The media rooms are spacious, and of course, everywhere there are these see-through dividers, so that if you're sitting at a table with somebody, you're actually looking through this perspex, plastic, whatever. So it is. I think they've done a really good job, and I feel comfortable. I did a recce at the stadium yesterday, and there seemed to be a lot of press seats. So again, I think we will be spread out. So really very happy with things so far. The mix zone, they're talking about ticketing that so that you get a ticket to go in, and then when you come out, you give the ticket away, and somebody else can go in your place. But they will be limiting the numbers. They're going to divide at busy times. They're going to divide the mix zone into 3 sections, so that the 100 meters will be at the far end, the high jump will be in the middle, the javelin will be at the other end, so that if you want one of those events, you just have to go to one part of it, and the athletes will be brought to you, rather than fighting everyone as we normally do. So I think they've done a lot of thinking and a lot of work to make this as safe as possible. But as I think we'll talk about in a moment, inevitably people are going to catch COVID.
I think that you're right. It's just, what's the, have you been talking to some of your British media friends?
Funnily enough, the only one I've seen was Sean Ingle, we just happened to pass at a transport mall yesterday. But I'll see them today.
Okay.
Because really, all I've done since I've been here is a recce twice to the main press centre, and I had to collect my tickets there, and I went to the village just to see what that was like. But I haven't really been out and about much. But today it all changes.
What will there be actual press conferences, or is everything going to be remote?
I think everything is going to be remote.
Okay, so you'll probably see me on your computer when I go in to ask questions at the medal ceremony or the medal. And okay.
Interesting what the British team is doing with all their medals across all sports is they have got real press opportunities in person for broadcast, and then they're doing something online for the written press.
Okay,
but it seems to work. I just participated in one with a swimmer just to see how it worked. So I think everyone is working well around the system.
Good. That's important. Have you been on the council, the little My Info desk?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I haven't used it in detail, but everything around there just seems to be there and it seems to work.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think it's going to be really. They've really done a nice job considering the limitations that they have.
Yeah.
And it's we're doing previews each day, and we'll be posting them. I've just got that going up in a little bit. In the U.S., we'll show live. We bought access to one of our NBC cable networks, so we can see some live coverage, which would be great too. But it'll be interesting to see what they say. Do you think the numbers of media are down as well at the event, or what's your gut telling you?
I don't know. It's hard to judge. The workroom yesterday was quite full, but it's hard to remember back 4 years how how big the room was compared to. I mean, I think definitely there are less media here than there were last time, but I don't know what the exact numbers are.
Sure.
I mean, like from a few months back, they said that if anyone couldn't come, you couldn't replace them because they were trying to reduce the numbers.
Mm-hmm. We've got some interesting events today, and I wanted to kind of take you through them and just kind of see what your thoughts were. The men's 400 hurdles, which should be fun. We'll get to see Karsten Warholm and Ray Benjamin. Any deep thoughts on the 400 hurdles?
Well, I think it'll be fascinating to see if anyone can actually give Warholm a really tight race.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he really has dominated the event. You know, we've talked in the past about the Qatari gentleman with a rather long and unpronounceable name, which I'm sure you've got at your fingertips.
Okay.
Absolutely. And Ray Benjamin. But, I mean, Warholm just seems to have this ability to get drawn in the outside lane and run a world-class time. So I think he's definitely the one to beat.
I think you're right.
And such a character. I mean, I remember him telling us in a London presser once that he was from the Scottish part of Norway. He liked to make money. And he had an idea of buying a racehorse and trying to persuade his trainer to train the racehorse alongside himself.
There you go.
Sadly, his trainer was unwilling.
Oh, that's too bad. Next, we're going to have the women's 800 round 1. That's something we've both been looking forward to. Talk to me about that event.
Well, I just think that is probably one of the top 3 events that there are. And you look through the people in the prelims and you think she'll get to the final, she'll get to the final, she'll get to the final. And you've made a list of about a dozen athletes. And clearly only 8 are going to make the final. So I think there'll be some very good athletes can go out. You know, we've, from a British point of view, we're intrigued to see whether Keely Hodgkinson, who's managed to step up to every level so far, whether she can do it again at the Olympics. Gemma Ricci is an exciting runner. But, you know, I think that both of those could actually break the British record and not get a medal. And, you know, that you've got Ajay Wilson, who was beaten in Doha by Raven Rogers. So that's an intriguing American aspect of it. And, you know, there'll be some good Africans as well, you know, Yunus Sum from Kenya, world record, world champion, was it in 2013? Still going. The Ugandans who did so well in Doha. Just an absolutely intriguing race, I would say.
Yeah, and we can't leave out the American phenom Athing Mu.
Absolutely, yes.
The event that's maybe paradigm changing is the men's steeplechase. Ezekiel Kembwa, who's won 5 world championships and I believe a couple Olympics, was in the Kenyan papers a couple weeks ago, saying he was quite concerned about the quality of the young men who were competing in the steeple. It's not that he didn't think they're fine athletes. He just didn't know if they're capable of keeping a tradition that goes back to Amos B. Watt in 1968. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens there. And then we've got an event we're both looking at, the women's 100-meter first round. What do you think of that?
Well, just an aside on the steeple, isn't it interesting that that is the first event of the day? So that's what the first thing we will see.
Yeah.
I think the women's 100 is again one of those top three events, and I mean, dare I say it, probably more intriguing than the men's.
Yeah.
From a pure athletic point of view, it is such a shame that Sha'Carri Richardson is not here, because the idea of seeing her taking on the Jamaicans, Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price and Elaine Thompson-Herah, would have been intriguing. I'm really interested to see what Javian Oliver can do. Up until this year, she has done most of her best running on indoors. And I asked her about this a few months back, and she said, well, the problem is I tended to get injured coming out of the indoors most years. And so this is the first time she's made a U.S. outdoor team. And again, I'll be interested to see what she can do. She seems to be improving every race. Dina Asher-Smith took a medal in the World Championship in 2019. Can she do that again? Despite being as patriotic as I am, I think that you have to recognize that Dina's PR at the moment is significantly behind the Jamaicans, and so she'll really have to run an incredibly good PR to be up there. And of course, I mean, Blessing Okibare ran a 10:60 something, windy, but equally she still, you still have to get your legs moving at that speed. So I think I certainly would not like to have to put my life savings on who's going to get the medals in that race, and I think it'll be intriguing. And one thought perhaps that Shelley-Ann is a year older and that the postponement of the year might have been to her disadvantage, and then she goes out and runs 10:63. So I'm intrigued by that one. And we've got the preliminary round early morning, and then later we have the first round for everyone. So yeah, it's good to see that happening early, and I'm intrigued. And of course, we have the big question to answer: what color will Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price's hair be for this championship?
Yeah. Well, inquiring minds want to know. It's true. The qualification for the men's high jump begins also in this first session. And in the U.S., we have a curious situation with Siobhan Harrison, who won both the high jump and the long jump. And he is competing in both, doing it at a level that hasn't been seen since Jim Thorpe back in Stockholm in 1912. So
I don't remember 1912, Larry. Was that a good Olympics? What was the media arrangements like for you?
It was, it was the first time I could grow a beard, and yes, they were quite good. But we didn't even have wireless back then.
Mr. Really?
Mr. Marconi hadn't put together radio yet. That was still 11 years away. So we just wrote on a tablet, and then it was telegraphed out. But the good old days. But yes, so that was a very good response, Stuart. That may get the award for the morning. And have you had tea yet today?
No, absolutely. I'm just it's only just after 6 o'clock. I'm just up to talk to you.
Stuart, that warms the cockles of my heart. Then we also have a men's disqualification.
Yes.
Men's discus should be pretty pretty good. But that's a good session for you guys. It's going to go, what, about 3 hours?
Yeah,
and,
yeah, but also it's not a busy session because, you see, I think it'll be interesting. We will actually get to watch the high jump and the discus, because often these events are lost in the midst of all the track events. So I think that is good. Again, I mean, it will be an unusual situation, perhaps for the high jumpers to be jumping at 9:15 in the morning. And that kind of thing can sometimes be interesting as to whether, that you would normally expect an important competition to be in the afternoon or evening, but to be actually out there at 9:15 in the morning jumping, I think that some people's body clock won't really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, I think those are some of the things I think that can be a challenge. And I'm fascinated to talk to the athletes to see how a 14-hour or 16-hour time change for some of them. But it's 8 hours probably to 16 hours for many. How that affected them competing, and that'll be one of our questions asked after the competition.
Well, I mean, ironically, on that, the pandemic may help a little bit because when you say that I was going to have to do 3 days quarantine when I arrived and just sit in the hotel room for 3 hours. I mean, that does sound a bit horrendous, but actually, because of the long flight, because of the time change, because of all the hurdles I'd had to jump through, actually spending a couple of days doing nothing was all right. And so I think the fact that you had this quarantine probably, if you managed it well, helped with the jet lag. But I mean, just a quick aside on that, Holly Bradshaw, our pole vaulter, takes this very seriously. And for the last 2 weeks before traveling, she has been adjusting her time, going to bed half an hour earlier every night, so that by the time she was flying, she was already on Tokyo time and eating her meal Tokyo time. So, some people go a long way to be right for the event.
That's quite impressive. Talk to me about, let's see now. So will you work in the media center or will you go back to your room? How will you do things?
Today, I've decided to stay at the stadium between the sessions. I mean, the morning session will probably end about 1 p.m. and the evening session starts at 7 p.m. So there's a 6 hours in between. I think that I will just, for today, I'll stay there and hopefully find somewhere to have a little nap and just see how that works. And I may do something different tomorrow, because for the first, I think it's 5 days, the first 7 days, we've got morning and afternoon sessions. And then the last 2 days are effectively just evening sessions. But I'm just feeling my way, whether to come home in between and work in the room and even have a little sleep or whatever. I think they're going to be long days, and we'll just see how it goes. But equally, hey, I've got next week to sleep when I'm back home.
Now, are you coming back over for the Paralympics?
I decided not to do the Paralympics because of all the restrictions and so on. So I'll cover them a bit from home, but also if the Honourable Boris is allowing it, and if other countries are allowing it, I would hope that I might go to some of the diamond leagues such as Lausanne, Paris, Brussels, Zurich. I mean, up until now, it just hasn't been worth it because we were going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks coming back and some difficulty even getting into some countries. But I'm definitely not coming back to Tokyo for the Paralympics, sadly. But I just think that the challenges were not outweighed by the advantage of being there.
No, I get that completely. You were talking about the top 3 events that you're excited about. What are they in track and field?
Well, I think the women's 800, the women's 100. I mean, 3 is probably far too small because there's so many intriguing events. I mean, the men's 100 is intriguing in a way because beyond Usain Bolt, it's very open. I mean, Trayvon Bromell seems to be the favorite, but there's other people who could have something to say about Andre de Grasse.
Yes.
Beanie from South Africa has been running well. Ronnie Baker has done well in indoors. Can he add another 40 meters? So I think that's a very open race. The men's and women's 1500 will be fascinating. The women's pole vault, interestingly, Katie Najot is arguably the favorite for that, and she's never been in that position before. How will she deal with that? So I mean, there's almost an interest in every event. That it's intriguing, really, because we've come off 2 years of strange events that people have won things in the last 2 years, and you're sort of slightly saying, yes, but it hasn't been a level playing field and so on. And some great athletes have chosen hardly to compete at all in the last 2 years. And those who've trained clever may have an advantage there. Some of them may be a bit rusty. So I think it's intriguing at almost every event. We mentioned the specter of COVID, and I mean the news that Sam Kendrick has tested positive was inevitable. I mean, I think it is inevitable that some athletes would. But to think of someone like Sam, who's for the last 4 years had the Olympics in his sight, and to have this taken away from him is incredibly sad. And I would have to say that I don't think he'd be the last one that this will happen to.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And I mean, we had the situation that in the European indoors with a Belgian athlete whose name has just escaped me, who had 6 tests during the event. 5 of them were negative. 1 was positive, but probably a false positive, and he wasn't allowed to run. So there's the whole there is the possibility of people catching COVID, because no matter how safe you are, you've still got thousands of athletes living together, and you've got the potential for testing is not 100% accurate. You've got the potential for somebody having a rogue test, and people are going to miss out on their dreams.
Well, that's what I thought was so bizarre about Sam. He noted that he had 2 negative tests before the positive, and also I think 2 negative after the positive, and he still could not compete. And the Japanese authorities are pretty serious about it. He didn't make any excuses. He just said, look, I'm going to support Team USA. And he said that the 4th placer in the trials, Matt Ludwig, should probably get on a plane so he could compete, and I think he saw it as a fait accompli. And he said that the Japanese made the decision. There wasn't really anything he could do, and he didn't do it,
I mean, it's hard to think of a more gracious individual than Sam.
I think that is probably, I can agree with that. I think not only is he, I haven't had a press conference with Sam where I did not learn something about the event and learn something and become more intrigued by the pole vault. That's just Sam Kendricks, you know. The big story in the U.S., they reminded us of back in 2016 in Rio. He was under a time limit and halted his vault attempt in order to honor the national anthem of the U.S. As a U.S. military captain. I mean, that's just his way of doing things, but he does it in such a lovely way, and he's such a passion, and he's so positive. The other one coming up, and the schedule is confusing the heck out of me. So we've got the women's 100, obviously, and then we'll have the men's 100 coming up over the next few days. We've got the men's 10,000 tonight, and that's going to be a fantastic event. I am going to miss Mo Farah. You know, he's been around since 2011, actually much earlier than that, 2009, competing at this level. And then he started putting it together in 11, and he was undefeated until 17. And that's just, and, you know, it's not that his 27:51 or 27:47 were bad. They were not. They were just not 27:28. And that's the thing that I found a little difficult. I sense that with the heat, we're going to see a tactical race, but I could be wrong. Joshua Cheptegei is in incredible shape from all indications. And who's going to compete against him? You know, some of the Ethiopians, some of the Kenyans, and the Kenyans lost Jeffrey Kamwar, who competed at this level and knows that level of competition. So it's gonna be kind of fun. You know, Mark Scott from UK is going to be competing, and then we've got our friends Woody Kincaid and Grant Foster and and Joe Klecker. But one I wanted to bring up is you remember the event they did in every year was the night of 10,000 PBs in London.
Yes.
And it was at that lovely track, and it's where I spotted Mr. Bedford and Mr. Nick Rose popping a pint together, and I got to meet Nick Rose the first time and tell him I wasn't a stalker, but I remember him from 74 and 75 and 76 in the U.S. And they have 10,000 meter races, men and women's. But there was a young man, I think his name was Alex Yee, who ran so well at 10,000. And then he just picked up a silver medal for Great Britain in the triathlon.
He did,
pretty awesome. Did you have to write about him at all for AW?
No, I haven't written about him. But I mean, they say that he has got the potential to go on to dominate the triathlon event. So
wow.
So yeah, that's interesting to put it just about finding the event that is best for your talents. But
he's also broken 28 minutes for 10,000 meters. This guy's got serious wheels, you know. And that you know, it sounds like the biking and the swimming actually helps him with his running, you know. And so that's pretty neat. I just thought it was pretty cool. Your Team GB did quite well in the tri and some of the bike stuff. So that was kind of neat. What happened with your national record holder in the pole vault, the men's, broke a couple of his teeth. That got some global attention. Do you know what happened there?
I don't. I somehow missed that.
Yeah, there's a picture of him. He looks like he was just got out of a rugby scrum. But but he was training in Yokohama, I believe, and he broke 2 teeth. So that was kind of a tough one, and still going to compete. But the disqualification or whatever you want to call it of Sam Kendricks really disturbed me because I look at what Sam, Mondo Duplantis, and Renaud Lavillenie and Piotr Lisek, especially that 4, have done to resurrect the pole vault. Think about it. A dozen years ago, the men's pole vault was a snorer. After Bubka, and I have a great Sergei Bubka story that I've got to tell you right now. There's an American pole vaulter named Corey Tarpening. He made the Olympic team a couple times, and Corey trained in Paris with one of the French pole vault groups. And I believe it was before 92, and Sergei Bubka had the unfortunate situation of every Olympics he competed in. He won massive world champs, but every Olympics he was having Achilles problems. I mean, that he kept his legs going, I think was miraculous. But Corey came up to him and he knew Sergei, and he goes, "Sergei, I heard you've been having some injury issues. I hope that you're still able to compete well." And Bubka looked at him and said, "Corey, not to worry, I am Bubka." And I just used to crack up over that line all the time because when I met Sergei, he was just so down to earth and very relaxed, But you can see how wound up guys are. Mondo's not like that. Renault's not like that. Sam's not like that. Piotr's a loud, big guy. But Piotr's a happy guy, and they have they've really resurrected an event, and I think that's that they should be given credit for that. And we're just going to miss Sam being in the pole vault because I'll tell you, I think he's the one guy who can mess with Mondo. They play mind games. I mean, they're really nice to each other. But when they're competing, it's a beautiful thing to watch, so we're going to miss that. But we've got a great women's pole vault coming up, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Holly, you just got your national record, correct?
Yes, that's right. 490.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we have the women's shot qualification this morning, and I have to say that I will never think of the shot again in the same light after Ryan Krauser's idea of picking up a bowling ball and shooting a basket with it.
Yes, I mean, from center court.
Could we lobby to have this introduced as an Olympic sport?
I think so.
Shoot the bowling ball into the basket.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that he should get an award for that description. Him and Sam were the best at describing their events. But Ryan gets it. You need to be able to explain it to the American fan and the global fan in a way that doesn't confuse them, but doesn't intimidate them. And I think that's what it's about. And Ryan gets that. I mean, he's the world record holder indoor and out. And I was watching a broadcast with Diane Lewis and the Backstreet Boys from the UK, a fun podcast for fans. And they were all talking about complimenting Ryan and thanking Ryan for breaking Randy Barnes' records because Randy subsequently, after his records and his gold medal, was DQ'd, was banned for life, I believe, for one of the more curious anabolic steroids. And so I think a lot of people wanted to see those records go. I think the men's shot put and the women's shot put are two of the cleanest events and two of the most most watched events. If someone tries to cheat in those events, they're going to get caught. And as Valerie Adams, the Kiwi superstar, who was back after having child number 2, Valerie's a lot of fun. And as you recall, there was a press conference, about 217, with Valerie, Greg Rutherford, and David Rudisha. And David just sat there and laughed most of the time as Rutherford and Valerie just did, it was a comedy routine. And some media person asked Valerie 3 dumb questions in a row. They obviously didn't know anything about the shot put, and she was, to put it nicely, insulted, and she wasn't mean, but she did gently request the media person go study the event before asking questions again, which I think is a legitimate thing to do. Stuart, you have survived another 40 minutes with me, and I just don't know how you do it, but I think it's your prayer life, and I thank you for that. But you have a wonderful day, my friend, a wonderful evening, and a wonderful session tomorrow. So you're going to stay there. So this is your morning session that we will see for Friday, and then you're going to stay there for the evening session too, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We will be checking in. What I'm going to do during the live sessions is post up Twitter things and make some comments. We'll be able to watch it from here. And thank you for all your pictures yesterday. It was really fun to see the stadium I'm going to miss in the MPC. So it was, those were really enjoyable. And I will have some, in the next day or two, I'll have some smoked fish and rice in your honor with some pickled vegetables.
Right. Good.
Okay?
Good.
Okay. Stuart, thank you again. This is Tokyo Breakdown number 3. Larry Eder, Stuart Weir. Larry's in Wisconsin, Stuart's in Japan. And please enjoy our coverage and stay safe. Stuart, thank you. And thanks to Mike Deering, our production manager. Don't want to forget Mike.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. This is Tokyo Breakdown number 3. We caught up with Stuart Weir at 6 a.m. Tokyo time. He hadn't even had tea yet, and he was turning down the rice, steamed fish, and pickled vegetables for this morning. He's going to have some porridge. I, on the other hand, love that stuff. When I was in Osaka, I had it every morning. And that and watching Japanese metal videos at night before I fell asleep were 2 of my fondest memories of Japan. But I've digressed. So we've got our first session of track and field, 9 days of track and field nirvana. Yay! So here's what we got tonight. And this is, again, tomorrow morning, starting at 9 a.m. Tokyo time. The 30th of July is actually the 29th of July in the U.S. Kurt Vonnegut would have been, really dug that. Anyway, the first session is going to have men's 400-meter hurdles, round 1, round 1 of the women's 800 meters, round 1 of the men's steeple, round 1 in the prelim rounds of the women's 100, qualification for the men's high jump, men's disqualification, and also the 10,000 meter final, which will actually, 10,000 meter final, I think is going to be in the evening on the 30th. So I have kind of messed that one up, or we'll chat about that one in a little bit. But so here's what we've got. Men's 400 hurdles. Karsten Warholm, Rai Benjamin, Mr. Dos Santos, perhaps our friend from Qatar, Abdirahman, but we will have to see. Women's 800 meters, how do you pick that? Athy New, Raven Saunders looked just brilliant coming up the straightaway. And Aji Wilson took a different tactic and made the team. So we've got the silver and medalist coming from, and bronze medals coming from Doha back. You've also got these incredible Ugandan 800-meter runners. You've got Keely Hodgkinson, you've got Gemma Reekie, you've got 12 solid 800-meter runners in a race that only 8 of them are going to make the final. I think it's going to take 156.5, 156.6 to make the final. I think it's going to be a screamer. I think you're seeing a paradigm shift in the women's 800 meters. The men's steeplechase. This is the story of the men's steeple. Moroccans, Ethiopians, perhaps an American or a Canadian. Ezekiel Kembwa, 5-time world champion, 2-time Olympic champion, told a Kenyan paper a few weeks ago that he was quite concerned that the Kenyan young steeplers could keep their tradition and understood the pressure they were under. Kenyans have won the steeplechase since Amos Biwott back in 1968 against Kerry O'Brien and George Young. Okay, so is that going to continue? We just don't know. And I find it, quite frankly, doubtful. You've got the prelims in the first round of the women's 100 meters. The prelims are where athletes from countries less experienced with track and field get a chance to compete in the 100 first round. Some of them will move on. Some of them will have a lifetime memory. The women's 100 first round, that's what they all come in. Dina Asher-Smith, Fast Elaine Thompson, the real Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, Xavier Oliver. We're going to miss Sha'Carri, but we'll see her in. There's 4 more competitions in the next 5 years. We'll see her in global championships again. And then let's see what else we've got. Men's high jump, Javon Harrison. Javon is competing in the high jump and the long jump. He's won both at the NCAAs. And can he do that at the Olympics? He looked so great in the U.S. Olympic trials. Jim Thorpe was the last guy to win both. That was back in 1912. Can Siobhan Harrison pull off a Jim Thorpe or a Siobhan Harrison? We'll have to see. Men's disqualification. Some big guys throwing the disc. That's going to be a lot of fun, too. So that's the first session, which is about 2.5 hours. NBC is going to start showing it at, let's see, what time are they saying they're going on? I believe they're going on at 7 p.m. Eastern time. They're going on 8 p.m. In Eastern time. And then that'll be 7 p.m. Central time. That'll be 5 p.m. Pacific time. It'll be NBC Sports Network. Check with your local cable network if you have not purchased the package so you can see everything you want to see. But we will make sure that you know what's going on. Check out RunBlogRun. We'll have some great stories. We've got 5 stories up right now for this first day. We'll probably have another 6 or 7. Okay. Larry Eder signing out. Stay safe. Enjoy the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. Keep exercising, hydrate, stay safe. Talk to you soon. Thanks to Mike Deering, our program manager. Okay. Talk to you soon.